I'm 75 now, and I can't remember anybody except the Queen being there.
Princess Catherine bluntly refused a public handshake from Queen Camilla in front of hundreds of international media lenses. Amidst the frozen atmosphere of the Grand Hall, the Queen's smile completely hardened, while King Charles, despite standing right beside her, chose to look away desperately, clinging to a shattered veneer of control.
Insiders assert that this powerful act of silence was a fatal counterstrike after Catherine received a secret warning about a sinister plot. Camilla's faction was quietly manipulating the hierarchy, locking down access to the late Princess Diana's priceless jewelry treasury, to erase memories of the past and directly threaten the royal future of Prince William and their children.
Will the calculated cold restraint of the Prince and Princess of Wales be enough to shatter the palace machinery's cover-up scenario of a missed handshake due to miscalculated timing? Once aristocratic witnesses decide to expose the truth, how will the war over Diana's legacy plunge Camilla into a devastating collapse as the crack in the royal wall becomes permanently irreparable?
Princess Catherine's private study at Kensington Palace was immersed in a suffocatingly tense silence. The weak fading rays of the day's end filtered through the soaring stained glass windows, casting long shadows across the ancient wooden floor, creating a melancholy ambiance as dark as the secrets hidden beneath the royal arches. On the dark oak desk, completely devoid of the thick folders or dry reports typical of officialdom, sat only a single object, a small, worn red velvet box,
faded by time.
This box was no luxury gift, but a dangerous piece of evidence smuggled into the palace by a loyal servant of the old generation. This was someone who had dedicated their youth to devotedly serving the late Princess Diana since the 1990s, a living witness to the family's darkest eras. The box's presence in the residence of the Waleses was testament to a rare loyalty surviving within a labyrinth of lies and covert betrayals. Kate sat silently in her high-backed leather chair. Her shoulders were tense, and her long fingers gripped the edge of the oak desk so tightly that her fingertips turned pale. Her blue-gray eyes were locked onto the rough parchment placed inside the velvet box. This was no ordinary social note among nobles, but a confidential warning hurriedly written in sharp black ink, the handwriting trembling, yet carrying an utmost sense of urgency. Each line read like a damning indictment of a dark conspiracy unfolding in the shadows of the royal subterranean vault where the most sacred material legacies were kept. The handwritten warning from the old guard explicitly named the force behind Queen Camilla. They were aggressively executing a meticulously calculated plan to alter all access rights to the family's historic jewelry chests, priceless treasures associated with the most glorious and bitter moments of Diana's life were being stealthily moved from their original locations. Camilla's objective was ruthless and specific. She wanted to seize de facto ownership of these treasures, cataloging them as private property under the exclusive control of her own family branch. From there, Camilla could erase the final physical traces of Diana from the palace, turning the deceased into a fading ghost in the public consciousness. By locking down these treasure chests and changing the priority order for wearing the jewelry at upcoming international gala nights, Camilla was step-by-step rewriting palace history to her own liking. She wanted to make herself the sole mistress, the ultimate keeper of the keys to the royal treasury. This action was not merely the selfishness of a woman envious of the past. It was a direct assault aimed at pushing Kate and her children into complete isolation regarding their symbolic heritage. The exquisite pieces of jewelry that once belonged to Diana, from the teardrop sapphire necklace and the gemstone promise bracelet to the shimmering diamond tiara, were slowly being stripped away from the hands of their rightful heirs.
Kate felt a cold chill run down her spine as she thought of her children's future. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis' children, carrying Diana's direct bloodline, would be deprived of their grandmother's sacred mementos just because of a stepmother's greed. This was no longer a petty dispute over outfits or personal preferences between women in the family. This was a life-or-death battle to protect the honor of the deceased and the future foundation for Prince William and the next generation of successors. She stood up and walked over to Diana's portrait, hanging in the corner of the room where the rare leftover light illuminated the delicate face of the late princess. Diana's gaze seemed to pierce through her soul, conveying a silent plea. Kate promised herself that she would no longer suffer in silence. Her long-standing forbearance toward Camilla was not weakness, but the gathering of a storm waiting to erupt. She knew she was facing an insidious enemy, one who had spent a lifetime climbing to her current position through the most ruthless tactics and was ready to trample on the memories of others to consolidate her foothold. Camilla wanted to use this shift in hierarchy to prove that Diana's era was completely over and that her own branch of the family now mastered the monarchy's future. But Kate refused to back down. She would use her very status as a public favorite and the absolute trust of the people as a weapon to halt the greedy hand reaching out from Camilla's shadows.
Deep within the subterranean vaults of Buckingham Palace, where sunlight could never reach and thick stone walls isolated all sound from the outside world, Queen Camilla stood before a colossal glass cabinet housing the royal family's centuries-old jewelry collection. The clicking of her heels tapped rhythmically and sharply against the cold stone floor, shattering the gloomy, quiet atmosphere of the vault. In Camilla's hand was not an inventory list, but a brass master key, the only physical object that could throw open the gemstone-encrusted treasure chests without going through preparations or seeking permission from the traditional royal keepers of the wardrobe. Beside her, a few trusted cronies from her faction were carefully moving a velvet box containing a 7-strand pearl necklace with a massive sapphire centerpiece. This was the most iconic piece of jewelry deeply intertwined with the most momentous events in the life of the late Princess Diana. Camilla stared intently at the deep ocean blue gemstone under the dim flashlight, her eyes narrowing with envy, longing, and a decades-long suppressed greed under the shadow of the deceased. She caressed the cold surface of the box with her gaunt fingers, then coldly ordered her henchmen to replace all mechanical locks on this row of cabinets. From now on, only those carrying a specific token issued directly by the Queen's own hand would have the right to access and touch them. Camilla did not want to see Kate appearing at any major event wearing pieces that carried Diana's silhouette. She wanted to use these physical objects to assert her absolute dominance in the palace, making herself the center of all attention. This treacherous act would force all female members of the royal family, including the highly prestigious Princess of Wales, to use secondary, less magnificent jewelry sets selected and bestowed by Camilla herself. It was a direct assault on honor, a base sin covered up by the regal appearance of a queen consort. Camilla wanted to completely wipe out the spiritual influence of Charles's first wife, turning a painful past into a new chapter written by her own hand. She was firmly convinced that once Kate's access to Diana's treasures was severed, Kate would lose her most powerful weapon for emotionally connecting with the public's heart. Camilla wanted to clear the way for her own children, Tom and Laura, to obtain the highest material privileges from the royal treasury, preparing for a covert asset division plan. Her greed had crossed all boundaries of family ethics, turning the sacred mementos of a deceased mother into tools for personal selfishness and vile jealousy. As the final chest was locked tight and sealed with the Queen's private signet, Camilla flashed a triumphant smile, the smile of someone who believed she had mastered the situation. She turned and walked away from the dark vault, the sound of her heels fading into nothingness. Camilla had no idea that every stealthy action and selfish decision she made in this underground vault had been leaked to the outside by the sheer outrage of the old servants. The warning had been successfully delivered, and an invisible trap was being set by Kate right in the palace's grand hall where Camilla intended to appear like an absolute victorious queen. The International Gala Night at Buckingham Palace took place amidst the ultimate luxury of high society. Brilliant crystal chandeliers hung from the high ceiling, illuminating the entire gilded expanse of the Grand Hall. But the atmosphere beneath the ancient arches was so tense and suffocating that it felt like a tightly wound string on the verge of snapping. Reporters, photographers, and representatives of long-standing aristocratic families crowded the red carpet area, every eye fixed on the main entrance, waiting for the moment the most powerful figures would appear together. Queen Camilla entered the Grand Hall with slow steps, deliberately dragging out the time to draw all eyes to herself. Her head adorned with a glittering tiara as a symbol of absolute dominance. She advanced toward the Prince and Princess of Wales. With her customary arrogant smile, her face radiant with the pride of someone who believed she held every advantage after her plot to lock away the treasure chests. Before hundreds of camera lenses flashing continuously to create blinding streaks of light, Camilla slowly extended her white silk-gloved hand toward Princess Catherine, a public act designed to force Kate into submission in front of all the international guests. But all of Camilla's sophisticated calculations ran straight into a devastating counterattack of silence. Kate stood as still as a statue carved from the white marble, her back perfectly straight and her face completely unchanged. Her eyes locked onto Camilla's gaze without a single tremor, without a shred of fear or concession. Her hands remained in front of her fingers, elegantly clasped together bluntly, ignoring the Queen's hand hovering in midair. The smile on Camilla's lips instantly froze, morphing into a twisted mask of humiliation and shock. Her white, silk-gloved hand trembled in the air for 3 long, agonizing seconds before she was forced to retract it in ultimate disgrace before the most powerful witnesses. Hundreds of guests in the Grand Hall held their breath. The atmosphere in the hall suddenly froze completely. Kate had used a powerful move of controlled silence to refuse submission to a false peace, a compromised compliance built on lies and the betrayal of Diana's memory. Right beside her, King Charles witnessed the entire horrific and humiliating spectacle of his wife. His face turned pale under the lights, his lips pressed tightly into a painful, helpless line. Instead of stepping in to arbitrate or using his authority as head of the family to compel his daughter-in-law to fulfill her social duty, Charles chose the most cowardly path. He abruptly turned his face away, fixing his eyes on a tapestry on the distant wall, desperately clinging to a veneer of control that had completely shattered from within. He was caught in a bitter position between blind loyalty to the wife he had spent a lifetime trying to legitimize in the public eye, and his duty toward the future princess who held the monarchy's absolute prestige. The room's silence at that moment felt like a heartbreaking scream, where the memory of Princess Diana, which had always lingered in everyone's minds, rose up more powerfully than ever, suffocating Camilla's arrogance. Kate's decisive action was no impulse. It was a clearly drawn red line, a direct declaration of war against the forces that sought to bury the past. In the epicenter of the storm of humiliation named Camilla, Prince William stood beside his wife like an immovable mountain. He did not step forward to defuse the situation, nor did he extend a hand to save the face of his awkwardly standing stepmother. William chose to react with a cold, ruthless, yet politically calculated silence. His gaze fixed straight onto Camilla, carrying a profound disdain tightly suppressed under the guise of an upper-class gentleman. William's terrifying restraint transformed into a message of ironclad protections for Kate against all scrutinizing eyes. By maintaining this icy distance, he accomplished what he could not say in words as the son of the late Princess Diana, acting as a shield to protect his wife and children from the encroachment of Camilla's faction. Camilla looked into her stepson's eyes and for the first time in her life felt a real terror pierce her heart. She realized that the future generation of this monarchy would absolutely refuse to bow to underhanded games in the dark. Less than an hour after the gala night ended, to the astonishment of the guests, before the luxury cars could even ferry the dignitaries away from the palace grounds, the media crisis management machinery of Camilla's faction was immediately activated at maximum capacity to salvage the situation. The dark, sprawling corridors of the palace buzzed with the hurried footsteps of restless, trusted henchmen. They did not resort to official press releases or administrative documents, but instead utilized a whisper network and confidential phone calls to the editors-in-chief of loyal tabloids to weave a flawless web of suppression. By dawn the next morning, digital news outlets and print newspapers simultaneously dropped a sophisticated synchronized narrative. The Princess of Wales misses a handshake with the Queen due to miscalculated timing in the procession. They attempted to reduce a suffocating royal showdown and a stark political message into a silly technical glitch, an inadvertent oversight caused by the chaotic crowd in the Grand Hall. To distract public attention away from the locked treasure chest and Camilla's distorted face, this apparatus continuously published articles praising the Queen's altruism and her devotion to traditional duties. Camilla sat in her private dining room at the palace, looking at the orchestrated headlines exactly as she had desired. Her heart swelled with the smugness of someone who believed that owning the crown meant owning the truth and steering public perception. She believed that pressure from smear campaigns and the strict biases regarding royal duty would force Kate to suffer in silence, accepting the bad reputation of being clumsy and arrogant just to preserve a facade of harmony for the royal family. Camilla self-indulgently assumed she had once again buried the truth under the sophisticated fabrications of dirty media. The media war did not stop there. Reporters planted by Camilla's faction began to trail and swarm Kate's subsequent public charity events. They continuously hurled rude, provocative, and trap-laden questions. Was the princess deliberately showing disrespect toward the Queen, Chisakun? Or does the princess think her actions were too arrogant? This media siege generated immense pressure, a public opinion trap designed to force Kate into losing her temper or issuing a humiliating apology. However, Kate maintained an astonishing composure before the paparazzi swarm. She answered no questions, her face retaining an elegant smile as she walked with confidence, using her very high-class silence to neutralize all of her opponents' smearing efforts. Her resilience, far from quieting the rumors, only fueled the public's curiosity about what was truly being hidden behind the palace walls, waiting for the right moment for a decisive exposure. The web of suppression spun by Queen Camilla and her close media apparatus maintained its false peace for less than 24 hours. The fabricated narrative of a silly technical glitch, a missed handshake due to bad timing, began to show its first massive cracks when confronted with the brutal reality of the modern information network. The power of lies was completely helpless against the will of people who had witnessed the truth with their own eyes from just a few steps away. The turning point of this entire royal confrontation exploded from within the quiet corridors of the British upper class itself. High-ranking aristocrats, historic dukes, and foreign ambassadors who had been guests of honor during the gala night decided they would no longer remain silent. They could not accept the Queen's duplicity as she tried to spin Princess Catherine's decisive act of protecting her dignity into a mere technical clumsiness. At private clubs, exclusive to the elite, and behind closed-door dinner parties, whispers began to harden into definitive assertions. The truth quickly scaled the palace ramparts, flooding independent media channels and social forums. Living witnesses spoke out en masse with details as sharp as razor blades, utterly shattering the public steering efforts of the Queen's faction. They asserted that within the expanse of the Grand Hall, there was absolutely no chaos or timing errors from the organizers. Princess Catherine had intentionally stood still, her back straight, like a wordless manifesto, her eyes locked onto Camilla with a regal disdain as she flatly refused that fake handshake. More notably, witnesses exposed the moment King Charles abruptly turned his face away, a cowardly act to avoid facing the collapse of honor of the wife he had spent his life trying to legitimize. This shocking truth acted like a match thrown into a powder keg, igniting a fierce debate and an unprecedented deep divide within the heart of the British aristocracy. The loyalty map of elite families was torn into two distinct battle lines, pushing the palace's internal conflicts to a peak of tension. On one side stood the historic families, those who always held a deep reverence for the memory of the late Princess Diana, aligning themselves en masse with Catherine. They celebrated her as an icon of dignity, a brave mother who dared to stand up and halt the greedy hand of the legacy's destroyer. For them, Kate's resilience was the lifebuoy preserving the last shred of honor for a monarchy tainted by base machinations. Conversely, Camilla's beneficiary faction, those dependent on the Queen's privileges, frenetically launched retaliatory strikes. They publicly accused Kate of being arrogant, a selfish woman intentionally sabotaging the family's stability to serve her personal ambitions. They used the harshest words to vilify her resilience, turning the battle to reclaim the treasures into a farce of factional jealousy. But the true climax of this chapter lay in a far darker truth that had just been dragged into the light, catching Camilla's entire faction completely off guard. As the aristocratic debate reached its fever pitch, the secret of the locked treasure chest in the subterranean vault of Buckingham Palace leaked out. The public and the upper class learned with horror that Kate's refusal to shake hands was not out of personal malice, but to prevent a specific material crime.
Camilla had stealthily usurped access to Diana's jewelry treasury to divert it to her own children. The palace's cover-up mask completely shattered to pieces. The plot to erase history and strip Kate's children of their future inheritance was laid bare before the media's glare. Camilla, moving from a position of smugness, hiding behind rules, was suddenly thrust into the epicenter of public outrage and contempt, facing the total collapse of the deceitful narrative she had so painstakingly constructed.
The devastating aftermath of this royal confrontation did not manifest through legal verdicts or arrests by authorities, but through the most horrific psychological punishment right within the heart of a high society. At the next royal gala, where Camilla appeared with a heavy tiara on her head, she had to taste the bitter sensation of a complete emotional loser. An invisible yet ironclad wall of isolation was erected around the Queen. All dignitaries, diplomats, and representatives of prominent families actively avoided her gaze. As Camilla walked past the aristocratic faces that once bowed before her, now turned away simultaneously or stared blankly into space as if she were a non-existent ghost. The silent contempt of the room suffocated any remaining pride of the greedy woman.
Even King Charles, facing immense pressure from a public outrage and the turning backs of the elite, chose self-preservation. He actively maintained physical distance from Camilla throughout the event, leaving her standing utterly isolated in the Grand Hall, under scrutinizing, gossiping stares. Camilla realized that even with a crown on her head and the laws backing her up, she had lost the most precious thing, trust, and the minimum recognition from the world around her. She was imprisoned in the very loneliness and humiliation created by her own schemes.
In stark contrast, Princess Catherine achieved a brilliant and complete victory thanks to her own steadfastness and the unshakable unity of Prince William. William's calculated silence throughout this period acted like a steel shield, breaking every spearhead of attack from Camilla's dirty media faction. The united strength of the Waleses, combined with absolute public support, created a 1,000-pound pressure that forced the palace shadows to retreat.
Under the crushing weight of public opinion and isolation from the aristocracy, Camilla's faction was forced to return the master key and throw open Diana's treasure chests. The velvet boxes containing the legendary 7-strand pearl necklace and sapphire were brought back to Kensington intact and safe under Kate's custody. The honor of the deceased was protected in its entirety, and the sacred inheritance rights of the direct bloodline children were reasserted in a resounding manner that no one could violate. Kate's victory was a testament to how real authority and the will of the people can shatter any dark, fraudulent plots. She did not need to resort to arguments or tense meetings. Instead, she used her regal dignity to bring the antagonist before the brutal judgment of public opinion. Camilla was completely undone, her reputation permanently ruined, forced to live out her final days in cold rejection and isolation right inside the luxurious palace.
A colossal, deep, and permanently unhealable crack had been carved into the ancient royal wall of Britain. The war over Diana's legacy had drawn to a close, but its echoes would reverberate through generations. Camilla's downfall serves as a stark warning to those sitting on thrones. The future generation of this monarchy may respect the crown, but they are resolved never to bow down or compromise before the filthy, deceitful, dark corners of the past. If you were to put yourself in the princess's shoes, facing the imposition of a superior and pressure from your own husband's family, would you have enough courage to act as decisively as she did? Is that calculated silence a final forbearance or the beginning of an unyielding war? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.